Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 164, How Elementary Teachers Start with Project-Based Learning. So today we're going to talk about project-based learning with a very special guest, Renee Heinrich from Schoolyard Science, and she's going to talk to us about some steps and things that we can do to incorporate project-based learning in our elementary classroom. I hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Hey, so I'm excited to have Renee on the show today to talk about project-based learning. It's been a really long time since I really dove into project-based learning. I did this in 2011 when I was getting my master's from Full Sail in education technology and media design. And I got to work with Apple actually when they were working with project-based learning. And it was such an incredible experience and so many standards integrated and so much learning going on. It was really, really unbelievable. It's difficult to start, I will say. Like, it's helpful if you can find kind of a guide or some things that help you get started, or even reading some material. Renee is going to talk a little bit about how to start and how some ideas of like springboarding, and because one of the first things you do is you come up with this big idea and then you create a hook to engage the students. And so Renee will talk a little bit about that. And if you want to hear more about this topic, Renee is also at STEMCon 2022 this year. This is another fellow STEMCon presenter. And so you can check out that session. Hopefully you're going to be joining us. If you want more information, it's www.trinadeberyteachingandlearning.com/STEMCon22. And you can click on over there to see more information and details about how to sign up and all that good stuff. It's really right around the corner. Actually, it is this weekend. When this episode comes out, it will be this weekend coming up. Is that right? Yes, it starts on the 8th. So we just have a few more days. So don't miss out. You're going to be so sorry if you do. And don't worry, you don't have to be there. You don't have to be live. There are some live components that will go on in the Facebook, but they will also the replay will be placed into our normal conference site, and which is where all the other good sessions are loaded and recorded and ready to go. I sent my 3 sessions off a couple of weeks ago. By the time this comes out, it will have been a couple of weeks ago. For me, it was really just yesterday. But I'm excited and I can't wait for this conference. It's always rejuvenating and motivating and so much fun. So I hope that you will join us. Again, you can watch this for up to a year. You have up to a year. You have like 365 days to watch it. So if you did a little bit at a time, you could stay inspired and motivated for a whole entire year. Hope to see you there. Let's get on with the show. I'm excited to have a special guest and friend here today from Science Schoolyard, and that is Renee Heinrich, and she is going to talk to us about project-based learning. Welcome, Renee.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being able to talk a little bit about my next steps in my figuring out what I can do with my students each and every day.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I know that I remember when they first, like, project-based learning became like a thing. I had just graduated with my master's from Full Sail, which is like it's not really a school for education, but it was in educational technology and media design. It was the only program in education. Okay. And I don't know why I'm telling this part, but they are very, they're known for, like, the people that go to school there get like Emmys and Tonys and things like that. Like, they're very artsy. So sure. I was really drawn to it, and it was such a cool experience. And one of the things, they worked with Apple when I was graduating in 2011, and they were doing project-based learning. So I got to do it. I got to do it and be with Apple and be in this study. And then Apple presented on it, and they had me in the video. It was crazy.
I love that.
Yeah, but it was so long ago that I feel like I know it was very involved, and it was a lot. It was totally different than what I had actually been doing. It was, so much more exploration and so much more of the students leading the
Right.
charge.
Right.
And so I want you to talk a little bit about it as if like I didn't know anything, like I have no
Sure.
background knowledge, because I feel like it's been so long that I feel like I might not know anything.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, 3 days before school started this year, I took on a new position, and I had been teaching science for 13 years for kindergarten through fifth grade students. But I made this last minute decision because, once again, our specialist team was transferred to a new school. And the idea of building relationships is something that I really value. And so 6 times in that, 13-year span, it just was too much movement.
That's so hard.
Just needed stability. And so being a GT STEM educator instead of a science and STEM teacher, I really needed to find a way to hook my higher level thinkers. So I started off just using STEM challenges because that's what I was used to doing with my kindergarten through fifth grade students. But what I needed to find was like long range challenges that met their needs. And so I have used project-based learning projects in the past, but just kind of here and there, and knowing what the difference between STEM and project-based learning was, I kind of needed to figure out how I could create authentic outcomes so that they were able to take what they learned and use it in the future. And what my students were creating was meaningful and not just one and done challenges like I was doing in the past. What I was doing I had to really learn a little bit more about project-based learning, because what I was finding was I needed to stretch some of the things that I was doing and customize my lessons so that what my GT and enrichment kiddos were learning was something deeper. And so at first I needed to figure out, how to change that perspective of not just one and done, but long range. And so as I was researching project-based learning, I was looking at the idea that we look at what's happening in our community or what's happening in our school. I'm the Leader in Me school ambassador. So how can I use everything that I had around me to make deeper projects and challenges for my students? So my primary students, as well as my intermediate students, I look at them a little bit differently. For primary, I could use project-based learning. Right now, I am getting my head around using STEM challenges for them. But my older kids, I'm finding that they really love the bigger and deeper challenges. And so I do start off with a big idea. Right now, we are just finishing up one of our students. For example, I'll kind of give you an idea of what a project-based learning activity looks like so you understand what I mean by deep. So the project that we're working on right now is one of our students is actually a volunteer at our local humane society. But in this regard, she actually decided that she was going to volunteer her time at the new no-kill center in our community. And she was really excited to come and talk with me about it. And I thought, well, wow, this is a really great opportunity for this new community site to be able to be our springboard. So what I ended up doing with our youngers, our primary kiddos for enrichment, is we made a pet store and we researched what it was like to have a pet and what we would need in order to care for it. So I used a reading of nonfiction to tie in their research. And then they engineered a model of a pet that they would sell at their pet store. And so they had to name their pet store Smarty Pets. I love that. That's so cute. So we have the Smarty Pets pet store, and our third graders have created a persuasive writing piece. And our first graders and second graders are actually coming in next week to walk around the pet store. And they are getting a little dollar bill to be able to place in one of the cans that we're having at each one of their sites. After they're persuading first graders and second graders to adopt their pet or take their pet home, they are able to choose whether or not they're actually going to give it up and give their pets that they've made to someone that really wanted their pet to take home. Our older
That's adorable.
Isn't
And
it
so
cute?
many,
I love it.
it's so many standards. Like I'm
I
like, oh,
know,
persuasive
That's
writing and informational
yeah.
text and and real world problems. And like your brain is going, that's so exciting. All right,
It's
keep going.
so
I'm sorry.
fun. So our fourth and fifth graders, we ended up because of our friend that was in fifth grade that was telling me all about this rescue center. We decided that we were going to learn the difference between a no-kill center as well as like a humane society where they euthanize. She gave us brochures. She got brochures from the center, and she gave it to us. And we looked at all of the animals that were there for rescue, and we compared the two facilities. And so the students in fourth and fifth grade are creating a no-kill center where they are making sure that every one of the engineered pets that they made, the animals, the dogs and cats, were able to get a home. So they actually made their pets to be able to make sure that they're adopted out. And so
That's so cool.
it's neat because now we have another friend that actually went after school with our fifth grader, and they went and they were petting all of the animals and holding them and taking care of them. And so they're all just really excited about that. This is something that they can do even as a fifth grader. So tying in that community element.
Yeah. So it's like you also have like that social studies aspect. No, I think that's so cool. Where do you start? Like as a teacher, when you say, I know that's what I think. Cause I remember being very overwhelmed and thinking, okay, you start with this big idea. And I'm like, where do you go from here? Cause you are like handing over a lot of control because it's things that come up, and I think that part is really difficult. So what do you say to teachers? Like, where do they start?
Right. So that's funny because I literally started 3 days before school started, and I'm like, and what do I do? I don't know. I started off with a book. Like my first book was Lemonade Wars. And we made a lemonade stand at the end, and we sold lemonade to our families that came in for a family night. And then that money is actually being used for our last project-based learning activity, which is to create a garden. And so we had, again, I always want to make sure that there is some kind of tie-in to some kind of audience. And so in this case, in that case, our audience was our family members. And so at the end of all of it, we had the next project at the end of our year. So I had time to actually plan for it. But you can use that as a springboard with a book, for example, and think like, how can students learn about economics? And that book is all about economics. So that's how I started off, was like, I'll just pick a book and what can I do to kind of help facilitate an engineering activity, because I wanted that to be a component every single unit that I did. But I would start with that. And, I just didn't have enough money, like to just keep buying new project-based learning projects. I did go online and just kind of get ideas. There are some great free project-based learning sites out there. And so in my presentation that I'm going to be doing for STEMCon, yes, I can't wait. I do have some of those sites that I am sharing out. I did make a calendar of like the different types of things I wanted to do throughout the year. I ended up doing a baseball unit for my last one, because we were tying in our 7 habits that we're doing for our leader and me. And I actually had my son come in, and he presented because he's a baseball player in college. And we had the head baseball coach from our town come in with him, who took over my husband's position. So we kind of tied it into that. And then we talked about leader and me and being able to think first things first and a win-win. So we tied in that last project that we did with just something that we were doing at school. And we actually had a canned food drive for our local food pantries. And we have 2 in our community, and the students actually bagged them up and made sure that they had enough, and they actually facilitated the food drive. And so, even if it's just counting and graphing, that's what we did for our math tie-in. And then to be able to host that event, and to be able to make flyers, and to be able to make, the informational, things in the hallway, and to create the boxes for them all. It doesn't always have to be, I'm tying in a reading book, or I'm tying in some math concept. I can put it all together with something that like is so good for kids to know how to do, because it's a life skill. And I'm finding with my enrichment kids and this really high level learners, they need that kind of challenge, and they need to let their brain like do that. And it is humbling for them too, which sometimes are kiddos that are really, really bright. That was new to me. It was like,
Mhm.
I'm so smart. I heard that a
It's
lot,
easy
or,
for me. Yes. It's
so
easy.
easy for me.
It's like they miss out on that productive struggle element that we are
Yes.
trying to hit with our, like
Yes.
atypical student. But then in this case, they can see because they, oftentimes will go through life and be like, this is so easy, so easy, so easy. And they don't
Right.
know what to do when all of a sudden it's not easy. So I
Right.
think it's really important.
And I
Yeah.
think passion projects can be a project-based learning as well. I also have realized I needed to be very organized in how I keep all my sheets. If I'm making an activity sheet for them or a record sheet, I formulated a rubric because I really needed them to be held accountable for their time, which when you allow kids to facilitate their own learning, and project-based learning is that, I needed to have some control over how they were utilizing their time and assessing themselves and assessing each other and holding themselves accountable for their time management, which that's a life skill too.
No,
So,
absolutely. I think it's so interesting because the little experience that I had wasn't with gifted and talented. It was actually with like struggling readers. So
oh,
my project, I was out of the classroom. I forgot about this part. I was out of the classroom and I know. I'm like, oh my goodness. This is the one year, it was in 2011 that I wasn't teaching second grade. I was teaching all the kids in my grade level that needed a remediation. We had 13 second grade classes. So they
okay.
came to
Gosh.
me like in groups at different times during the day. So I took all those kids and we did this transform apathy into engagement, transform apathy from reading or about reading into
Ah,
engagement. And
okay.
it was unbelievable. Like it was so unbelievable. And even though it was challenging for them too, but it wasn't, they directed so much that it's almost like that zone of proximal development. That's what it makes me think of, like Vygotsky's
Yes.
zone of proximal development. It's not too hard. It's not too easy. It's like that optimal part of
Right.
learning. It was such a cool experience and they were so invested now. And these are students
That's
that
the
normally
part.
are not.
Oh my gosh. I'm finding like, they're like, can we take like like at the beginning of it all, I didn't know quite like, do I send stuff home? Do I just do it during our time that we're together? And it's limited because I'm at two schools and I'm switching my time between them. What I'm finding is they're like so excited. They're like, I'm going to take it home. And they do. They take it home and
Yeah.
they're excited about their learning and they want to share on Seesaw. And
Yes, and they really
yeah.
do. They really want to keep. I think that is the coolest thing. It was funny because this is a little side note, but
Yeah.
my second graders were interviewing kindergartners and first graders about that was the first part where they were interviewing them how they felt about reading. And
Right.
all the students had their various opinions, but there was this one little girl in kindergarten and she was like, I hate reading. And so we were asking her some other things. Nope, I hate it. I don't want to read. I hate reading.
I'll do it.
And I have never seen a person so basically apathetic at that age. And I'm like, I know I am going to get that student in the future. And what happens? 2 years later, here she comes into my first grade classroom. And I was like, I am going to convince you to love
You're
reading. Like that is
converting.
like, and I did, but it took a long time. It took so long. I knew it though. When you just know, you're like, oh, I'm totally going to get that student. I just knew that was going to happen. But
I just
anyway.
think like the whole idea of like working with higher level learners too. It's a unique challenge, and some of it is like they're perfectionists. So some of that, like I'm learning as I'm
Yes.
going, like how to say, this is the deadline, this is a cutoff. And if you're not done in that time period, you are getting graded as is.
Yes.
And you have to be held accountable to a deadline. And I think that was a struggle for them at first because they wanted, it doesn't look perfect. It's not perfect. It's okay.
Yeah.
So I think that was a little overwhelming at first for them. And so I did like a little mini, like we're going to make a newspaper, or we did like like right at the beginning of the year, after Lemonade Wars, we ended up doing like a little newspaper because we needed them to set deadlines and learn what a deadline was. And so we had an editor and we had like that whole thing, and they had to write about something that they were working on in class.
Mhm.
And then also each person did something different, where one person did something that was going on with our encore, like
Yeah. So they
science
did like an
class.
actual,
We had
like
an
each person
interview.
had their own story to tell.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Did
then
you,
we
and
had
you
somebody
probably, did you think of this in advance, or this was something that you were,
I whipped that together.
I
No,
was
I
going to say, you responded to what was
yes.
happening in the situation, which is one of the things that I love about project-based learning is
Right.
that
And
you
I
are
think
responding.
right. Exactly. Like finding in it, I would suggest if you're not quite sure what to do for project-based learning to really look in your newspaper.
Mhm.
To look at events that are going on in your community, to find out things that are going on in school, and tie that in. And like I said, if you're struggling, there's a ton of things on Teachers Pay Teachers. But like I said to myself, like I am going to figure this out. I need to learn about project-based learning. I need to problem solve. I have created a board now. Like I started reading like blogs and things like that with some people that already were doing it. And I made a board for the kids so that they could get their sheets and they knew the deadlines. They really are into deadlines now. So they're like, what do we have to do
Yeah.
now? And so we have it set so they know that these are the deadlines. And again, I have some of those sheets that I'm using and that I created included in my at the end of my presentation thing to give away, because
That's
it's like
exciting.
we don't all want to like start from scratch, and if we don't understand it, that's a hard part. And I also made some cards up for them as well, and thinking about like what I did. I made little cards for myself. This is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to, these are going to be the people involved, and it's going to be who we are presenting this to. What is the outcome going to be? We have some money set aside for next year for our playground. I didn't know that until just 2 weeks ago. And I thought, oh my gosh, maybe we can figure out how to go and look online for how much it costs for different playground equipment. What would we like? Could we pull the kids, and find out what they would want on their playground, and then actually present that to the principal and say,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
so
what
cool.
we think we would want. So I'm like, that's my next, it's in my brain right now.
Yes, you just got to figure it all
But I
out. It's
have to
kind of
figure
like
it
mapping it
out.
out. No, I think that's so exciting. I love that. So you're talking at STEMCon, which we know
Yes.
it's coming around the corner. So tell what's the name of your session? We'll have to make sure that
It's actually learning about project-based learning, basically. Because it's like I was doing STEM so much last year and so many years in the past. And I don't not do STEM.
Yes.
I do that with my third graders. I actually teach third grade in the morning. I balance it with the halftime principal. We have a really small school, one of our country schools in our district. So I actually team with the principal because he's a halftime principal. So in the morning, I'm third grade. And we actually just made pagodas today. And we did our dragon puppets and our everything to go along with the Chinese New Year. So I'm using STEM with my third graders, but I also am using STEM with our primary learners. So my other presentation is STEM in the primary grades. So
That's so cool. That's exciting.
I just have it's just looks
No, you're just
different.
taking a little bit of a twist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I think you're using all the things that you know about integrating
Right.
transdisciplinary thinking and
Right.
learning, and then bringing it to a project-based learning. No, I
Right.
love that. I think that's
I
I
would
think
say
you actually have a leg up
right.
almost.
Yeah. And the only other thing is I would say it's not always about making something in the kids love the engineering part when I can put that into play. So this one was a big one. They got to make these. Oh, I can't wait to share the pictures on Instagram. So you'll have to check out Science School Year at Instagram next week because we're presenting to our other classes next week. So I'll put all those pictures up there. But one thing is it's not always about something they engineer. They could make a brochure. They could, like I said, we made a newspaper. We're making a garden. We're growing our vegetables for sale. I mean, there's lots of things that we're doing that isn't the engineering part. It could be the science component, which is our garden site. It could be math and buying seeds, which is what they've had to start thinking about because we're purchasing seeds with our money coming up in the next few weeks. So those are things that you can tie in every aspect of STEM. And it doesn't just have to be the engineering component. It can be the overall big picture of STEM and including art, so STEAM, it's awesome.
So cool. I love it. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see your sessions at STEMCon.
Thank you. I am so glad we were able to talk about it. It got me all
Me
excited.
too.
I'm
Me
so much
too.
So many
I know
things
it's like,
going
oh,
on
I
in
want
your
to go do
brain,
that. Where can people find you?
Yes. My Instagram is Science Schoolyard. I do have a group on Facebook called Surviving K-5 Science and STEM. So you can get ideas there. We have people sharing out how to tie science and STEM together. You can find me on K5 Science. A K5 Science Gal at gmail.com if you have any questions and want to send that out. I have a blog, Science Schoolyard. So I'm
And a store on TPT. So you send me your links and I'll
I
put them all
will.
in the show notes so people can find you
Perfect.
and get to you.
I'm so glad we were able to talk
Me
today.
too.
I'm excited about what this can look like. And again, just because you might not teach enrichment doesn't mean you can't do project-based learning.
Yes, for
Because
sure. Yes,
yeah,
yes, that's what I just said. Even for myself,
right.
I did it with, with kids that
Yeah.
were needed remediation. So yeah,
Perfect.
that's great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Hi, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day as well. So, I think that is a really exciting thing to think about project-based learning. Again, don't let yourself get super frustrated. There's tons of resources out there, lots of free resources as well. And I know Apple has a lot of information on this because they've been working on it for quite some time. So that is something you want to check out. And I know that there's just a ton of good stuff out there. So look at that, find something to help you, give you a good start. The key to this, and we didn't say it, I don't feel like we said it in the show, so I want to say it now. Start small. You might want to start small. If you go for these big, elaborate projects where you're integrating everything in the world, they're awesome. They're amazing. They're so worth it. But you do feel a little overwhelmed. And so I think if you start a little smaller and you kind of dip your toe in and start to see the magic that can occur, then you are more likely to continue. That's just my thought. You do whatever you do, and I'm sure you will make it amazing. I'd love to hear about it. So if you want to share, send me an email, tdeborah@trinadeborahteachingandlearning.com. I'd love to hear that. Or you can leave a review, or you can leave a comment on Apple, which would be really, really great too, or even on my website. So the one thing I want to tell you, because it's coming up, this is it. This is like one of the last times we're going to talk about STEMCon, at least for this year. And that's for you to join us at STEMCon 2022. STEMCon and beyond. You can find information at trinadeborahteachingandlearning.com/STEMCon 22. I hope to see you. This one tired teacher is motivated, excited, thrilled, over the moon about STEMCon. Hope to see you. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.